A new survey shows British consumers are cutting food spending to save money as the cost of living reaches new highs. The study conducted by the British Consumer Protection Association says about 85% of people in the UK have cut their food spending since August. It also shows that people are trying to buy promotional foods and spend less on expensive items. People in the UK have been feeling the squeeze of soaring prices for months. Britain's inflation is now at a 4-decade high. This is driven by inflated food and energy prices due to the crisis in Ukraine and sanctions on Russia. I'm now joined by Steve Keen. He's an economist and author from Amsterdam. Steve, welcome to the program. Let us discuss the ongoing crisis in the UK and the contributor factors that have caused this crisis. Maybe one factor is fundamental flaws and shortcomings in the UK's economic system.
Well, the UK is an importer of food. It imports at least 30% of the food that it eats. And though it's gone further in getting renewable energy than most countries around the world, it's still heavily dependent upon imported oil. So the combination of not being able to control its food production and relying upon imported energy, it's extremely vulnerable. And given the incredibly skewed distribution of income in the UK, and the very low level of income of at least 40% of the population, that much of the population will be sent bankrupt by higher food prices and higher energy. So what we're really seeing in some ways is the breakdown of the price system.
And Steve, political instability in the UK, especially uncertainty over the future of number 10 Downing Street, it has severely exacerbated the problem. So Boris Johnson left the Partygate scandal and Liz Truss resigning after 44 days with her controversial economic package. And now, again, the Tory party is trying to find a candidate that can just rein in the inflation and also put an end to this crisis that has engulfed the entire nation. Now, how grim the prospects, in your opinion, are coming winter?
Oh, they're terrible. I mean, the idea to put a cap on energy prices was essential, because if you don't do it over winter, then many people are going to be unable to keep warm, and you'll have people dying of hypothermia. Which is ridiculous in what's supposed to be an advanced, developed country. So it's just a sign that the austerity programs that Britain has been dominated for by over a decade now, where the idea was to save for a rainy, and they don't have the physical resources needed. They should have been building the physical resources, and that requires deficits, government spending. It requires investment. All these things haven't been happening in the UK for virtually 20 years. So it's a sign that the focus upon trying to balance the books has actually led to the crisis they're in now.
And finally, Steve, one other contributive factor here is the war in Ukraine and the sanctions on Russia, and Russia reducing its oil supplies to Europe and the UK, which basically acts as a domino effect here, because the UK doesn't import much gas and oil from Russia directly. So how much of a role do you think sanctioning Russia has played in exacerbating the ongoing energy crisis and cost of living crisis in the UK?
Not as much as is done for Germany, obviously, because Germany relied directly upon energy imports from Russia. But just the overall fragility of the British economy. It shouldn't be running a balance of trade deficit at the scale that it's running. It should have decent industry, and it's run that down over the last 40 years with a belief they can replace it with service exports, and that has never worked. So you've got basically a wrong direction, which has been carried out by the ruling parties there ever since the days of Maggie Thatcher. And what you're really seeing is an economy ruining itself. So I think the Russian sanctions and so on are minor compared to what they've done to Germany, but they're still pointing out just how unprepared England is for crises coming forward, because of the focus it's taken to saving for a rainy day.
Mm-hmm. Steve, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time. Steve Keen, an economist and an author from Amsterdam. Thank you for joining us.